love movies and movie discussions, you've come to the right place. Who am I, you ask? I am the Wiz, and I'm here today to review the 1939 classic Gone with the Wind, starring Vivien Leigh, Clark Gable, Olivia de Havilland, Hattie McDaniel, and Leslie Howard, directed by Victor Fleming. Take two. Yeah, I recorded this a couple days ago and then realized the microphone wasn't on. So when I went to my recording to start editing, nothing was there. Oh boy. Yeah, I was supposed to do this last week. I ended up getting sick, and instead of powering through it, I figured I would take the week off just to recuperate and go from there. So I apologize. We will have something for next week for Halloween. I will do a movie review for Halloween Day, and we'll look forward to that, and I'll announce that at the end of this episode. A lot of people, when I tell them, like, movies I have seen to movies I haven't seen, they're stunned by the movies that I haven't seen, mostly. The ones I have seen, they're like, I've never heard of them, who cares? But the ones that I haven't seen, they're always stunned by, because it's always ones like Jaws, Close Encounters, Gone with the Wind, Back to the Future, films that everyone has seen, basically. I think I figured out why that is. With Gone with the Wind, it's two reasons. One, the length is like, whoa, 4 hours long? That's a commitment. And second is, Gone with the Wind was always easy to get a hold of. Back when there were video stores, when you would go in, you would see Gone with the Wind in the drama section. You would see it all the time. So it was not like it was hard to get if I wanted to watch it. And I've always wanted to watch it. On the other hand, especially with video stores and streaming sites and whatever, there were always more interesting stuff that had a limited time space as when it would be there. So I would go to those first and then say, oh yeah, I'll get to Gone with the Wind. Oh yeah, I'll get to Jaws eventually. I do want to see it, but I'll get to it. Let's do this one instead, because that might not be here for so much longer. Yeah, that's gone on for 30 years? Or 25 years, I should say. Probably around 30, but yeah, that's been going on for a while. So the theme being films that I haven't seen and you have, I think one of the big ones is Gone with the Wind, and I am quite happy I actually got to watch it. So let's review it. Let's review the film Gone with the Wind, directed by Victor Fleming. There is a definite quality to Gone with the Wind. It is a very good movie, and I understand why it has endured all this time. Are there questionable things about it? Sure. I mean, I'll get into it. I can level the same criticisms I have with Titanic to this movie, where I could recommend Titanic just for the visuals. When it came to the visuals and what Titanic did on a technical level, it was fantastic. But the story and characters were bleh. I could do that with Gone with the Wind, but I would criticize it much less. I'm still debating as to my feelings with this film. I liked certain characters in the film, except for the main character, but I think that was kind of the point. I'm debating that with myself, because on the one hand, I feel like the film wants you to sympathize with Scarlett, but on the other hand, there are things in the film that make me think that might not be the case. So why don't we get into the specifics, and then we'll get into that stuff in spoilers. So, performances. I think the best performance of the film is Clark Gable as Rhett Butler. He is so charming, and he has some of the funniest lines in the movie. Utterly charming, hilarious, just gives a great performance that I really liked watching whenever he was on screen. The main character, Scarlett O'Hara, played by Vivien Leigh. Vivien Leigh was good in the role. I don't want to denigrate her performance much. I think it's a very good performance. Again, I have the issue of, am I supposed to like this character or not? But she played Scarlett very well in this. If it is to be a character that you're not supposed to sympathize with, then yes, she played her very well. Other performances, Hattie McDaniel as Mammy, I thought she was good. I find it really funny that her character is the one that is essentially the character that criticizes everybody in this movie. I really like that, and I think she played it very well. Sometimes characters like this can become annoying. Like, they're the all-knowing, oh, I see what you're up to, and they become kind of annoying at times. But not Hattie McDaniel in this one, not Mammy. I think she was actually very good in this role. And then I think the other performance I want to give a special shout-out to is Olivia de Havilland as Melanie. This type of character that Olivia de Havilland played, where she is the very sweet, very kind person that wants to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, they become boring sometimes, because they kind of go for one way and you're waiting for them to turn. That's not what happens in this movie. It's not what the case, but Olivia de Havilland does a very good performance, especially when it came to her and Vivien Leigh in this, because she kind of is the straight person to Vivien Leigh's, not bombastity, but she really plays a very calming presence in this movie, and she does it very well when it comes to her performance in this. So I really liked Olivia de Havilland in this. Writing. I am not familiar with the book. I've never read the book. I probably will never read the book. I don't know if this film is a one-to-one adaptation. I've heard it really isn't in some circumstances. I think in terms of dialogue and the way that the film is structured, I was very afraid when I was watching this, since this was a 4-hour film, that they literally just took, book, boom, movie, and that's it. And that really, a lot of people, when they complain about why they change stuff in movies, they don't seem to understand that you have to change stuff in movies, because sometimes what would work in a book or a video game or a comic doesn't necessarily work in a movie. When people ask, just take what's on the book, put it in the movie. How could it be so hard? It doesn't really work out that way. Again, I don't know if that's what they did, but if they did, then this book must be one of the easiest ways to make a movie, from a book into a movie, because I think they did a pretty good job in this. Even though it's like 4 hours long, I never at one point felt like they could have cut something in this. They could have made this shorter. They could have truncated this part. They could have combined two elements here to make one. Even things that happen in the film that seem ancillary seem to fit really well with the mood and the feel of the film. And I think in that instance, it's really well done. And that's very hard to do. That is actually incredibly hard to do. It just seems like when the way the film is structured, they pieced everything very well together in this film, and I actually really liked that. And again, I was stunned. It was a 4-hour film that, I gotta be honest, I wasn't terribly interested, but it's Gone with the Wind. It's kind of something I have to watch, but I never was bored. I was never looking at the time. So I think that actually, for a 4-hour film, says a lot. Direction. I gotta say this movie is fucking gorgeous. Oh my god. Even when things are burning down around them, it's becoming a disaster, the war is happening, things like that. The way that the film is shot is utterly gorgeous. Like, you can tell this movie was expensive. You could tell, because even like from the beginning, where you have the big houses with beautiful gardens, and then in the middle when you have the war and the carnage and the destruction that's happening, you can tell so much attention to detail in this movie. Not even from like the set pieces, but from the clothing. It is so meticulous. It is beautiful to watch. Absolutely gorgeous to watch. For the visuals alone, I gotta give them huge props on that. When it comes to the characters and the story, I think it did a good job. I think this is more of a debate within myself than with, I think, a problem with the movie. I'm still not sure whether the film wants you to sympathize with Scarlett or not. Now, this film romanticizes that time period. I cannot even deny that. Like, they whitewash the slavery aspect entirely, which I think the book did too. So if you're looking for that, you ain't getting that. I understand people who are upset by that. This film's not going to do that. Like, they just don't. I do think, to a certain extent, the film does a good job allowing Scarlett to be who she is, but neither condone nor admonish what she's doing. Like, what she does, this is how she has to survive, but she is hurting people. And they definitely show that throughout the film. So that's why I'm still debating with myself. Does this film want me to sympathize with Scarlett? Because in my eyes, I think no. But I know some people who watch this film, they love Scarlett O'Hara. They think she's one of the best characters. She's an inspirational character, which, yeah, that's disturbing in itself. But I'll get into that in the spoilers. But I think with direction, the visuals, outstanding. The story, good. But I still have some questions. But again, this is like a 4-hour film, so there could be things I've missed I can get gleam answers from. So that might be on me. All right, so let's get into spoilers for Gone with the Wind, the 1939 drama romance classic directed by Victor Fleming. If you have not seen it, you should stop here and come back when you're ready. We'll get into spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The beginning of the movie starts with Scarlett as a young girl. Or I think she's like 15, 16 in this, which, by the way, I want to say this. When the film started and Vivien Leigh's character Scarlett is like 15, 16, I thought, how is that going to work? Because, like, she looks 16, 15, 16 there. That was convincing. But it was like, how is she gonna look older as time goes on? And I gotta be honest, it worked. Like, at no point did I question it. She went from that spoiled girl to an adult flawlessly throughout the film. So the film starts with Scarlett O'Hara talking to two guys. One of them is George Reeves, by the way. I didn't realize. She finds out that the person that she's been courting has chosen his cousin to marry instead of Scarlett. Scarlett is madly in love with Ashley. So this part of the movie is basically her trying to convince Ashley to marry her instead of Melanie, who is played by Olivia de Havilland. While this is going on, people are starting to get riled up for the Civil War. And this is where you meet Rhett Butler, who is played by Clark Gable. In this scene, it's interesting because right away, this is like a 30-minute sequence from the time where you meet Scarlett to when they announce that the war is starting and that they're going to start fighting. This whole sequence is interesting because at no point do I feel that they want to make Scarlett a sympathetic character. In like the first 10 minutes where she's going over, oh man, why does he not love me? Why does but she's headstrong, she's somebody who wants what she wants and she's going to get it in any way, shape, or form. And that can be inspirational to a certain extent, but then she does some dirty stuff. Like dirty stuff. This is where the relationship, the on and off again relationship between her and Rhett Butler starts happening, where Ashley rebuffs her very nicely, I should say. And then Rhett is like, yeah, what are you doing? She then decides to marry one of Ashley, I think it was one of Ashley's brothers or Ashley's friends, just to spite him, which I was like, wow, that's screwed up. And throughout the film, they make it plain and clear that she did not care about her first husband, like at all. And some films, especially around that time, would kind of wash that away a little bit, make her more sympathetic, or to be like, oh, I loved him, I did love him, but I really loved, and now I realize I love you. But they don't do that in this film. They make it very clear she did not want anything to do with her first husband. She just did it out of convenience and did it to piss off Ashley, and it just didn't work. So I thought that was really interesting. The film really chronicles the really disgusting things that Scarlett does, the very manipulative, the very hurtful things she does to other people, because she wants what she wants. What's also interesting is that even though she's in love with Ashley, she befriends Melanie. The only reason why she's befriending Melanie, and they say it plainly in the movie, is because she wants to get with Ashley. She's trying to be very underhanded to get with Ashley by trying to befriend his wife, even though she does not care for her, doesn't like her, and would rather not deal with her. It's really interesting that this character is just doing some of the most detestable stuff. In all honesty, I think she is probably one of the most manipulative characters I've seen in a film that is supposed to be the hero. It's actually incredibly strange to watch. But I will give the film credit. They show exactly what she's capable of and what she's doing. What I'm stunned by, and I think this is more other people, what I am stunned by is how many people find her inspirational. I had an ex-girlfriend who said, this is one of the best characters I've ever seen in a film or a book. I love this character. I find her inspirational. And let me tell you something. Once I watched this film, I was like, man, I wish I watched this before. Because, oh boy, that would have saved me a lot of problems. Even though Scarlett tacitly likes Melanie, but hates her because she has the man she wants, she saves Melanie from the burning of Atlanta with the help of Rhett Butler, which again starts other issues with the relationship between Rhett Butler and Scarlett O'Hara. This romance is interesting. It is a toxic romance. Oh my god. For example, Rhett constantly insults her throughout the entire film. Like, constantly. It's like, oh, you're a heartless bitch. Not a lot of those words, but he's essentially saying so. Like, you're kind of a heartless bitch, aren't you? and even though Rhett says that, Scarlett pretty much says, yes, so. It's like, okay. So, like, on the one hand, you can tell that these people are going to make each other miserable, but on the other hand, perfect for each other because they know exactly who they are, and to a certain extent, I think they care. I know Rhett cares about Scarlett, but I think to a certain extent Scarlett does care for Rhett, even though she's still in love with Ashley throughout the entire film. That relationship ends in, I think, a incredibly satisfying way, because it's the only time in the film where I feel like Scarlett gets her comeuppance. There are numerous times where Scarlett does a lot of wrong things and nothing happens. Like, she gets away with it. How many times she tries to get back with Ashley? How many times she tries to get in between Ashley and Melanie? How many times has she screwed her sisters who were in love with somebody else, but then ends up setting them up with somebody else in order to save Tara, the land that they have? Like, she does some terrible things, but she gets away with it. But the only time she doesn't get away with it is at the end of the film, where Rhett pretty much says, I'm done with you. This is the thing that I wonder about, that maybe people who have read the book can tell me. Is Scarlett really in love with Rhett, or is Scarlett just upset that she lost something? And this might be something to do with the character, that it gives her more depth or anything, but I think the film intended for you to believe that Scarlett was actually in love with Rhett, which I don't believe. I really do not believe that. I think, in all honesty, she got pissed because she lost something that she thought was hers. And now she wants Rhett back. I think that's my feeling on that, is basically she's not really in love with Rhett, but she just doesn't like the fact that she lost something that was hers. Some of you may disagree. I understand that. Again, I will say this from the beginning. I've only seen this once, so it might need a second viewing to actually get more out of it. But I think the film really wanted you to believe that Scarlett made a change after their daughter died, after she lost Rhett, that, oh, I'm actually in love with Rhett. I don't think that's the case. I think she's just that much of a self-centered, narcissistic person that she can't lose. She wants what she wants, and that is what she wants for whatever reason, and she must have it. I think that's where I would like to read more about that. Maybe the book says otherwise. I think that was an interesting thing that happened in that scene. Overall, on Gone with the Wind, I actually really liked this film. I was never bored. I don't think there is a scene or anything or a part of the movie where I could actually say that I would cut certain parts of the film. I do have questions as to what the film's intention was when it came to Scarlett and her intentions and what type of character she really is. I'm curious about how some of you might think. Scarlett is a very complex character. As a first-time watch, I'm giving it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. I think the film is beautiful. I think it's got great performances, especially Clark Gable. Oh my God, I think he's so good in this movie. Olivia de Havilland is very good in this. Hattie McDaniel is good. I like Vivien Leigh. I'm just not sure about the character very much. I think if you are like me and you have not seen this film and you consider yourself a film buff or you really like film, I think you should give it a shot. Just spend a night and just watch it on one sitting like I did. I think it's a worthwhile watch. You may or may not like it. You might be offended by certain things about it. Other than that, I think it's a very good movie. I think it's actually worth a watch. So 3.5 out of 5 stars for Gone with the Wind. I would say give it a shot. It's definitely worth the time.